Hi, and welcome to your week 2 lesson. Please make sure that you listen to this presentation and then engage in the pause for learning activities embedded in this presentation before you get to work on this week's assignment and discussion. Today, we're going to talk about how to use theory to name and frame problems, specifically the funnel approach. So, what's on the agenda for this week? Well, you're busy this week. This is the first time you're going to be looking at true leadership theory. You last week learned what theory was, you also learned what leadership was, and this week you're going to be tackling situational and transformational leadership theories in your assignment. You're then going to be assessing how theory can promote effective leadership. You'll have a chance to apply knowledge of theory to name and frame problems in your discussion, and then also to propose solutions to complex problems within your discussion. So, this is the big overarching question. Before I jump too much into the response to this question and my thinking about it, I would like for you to take a moment and pause and answer the question: what is your current approach to interpreting and solving problems? And here I'm talking about any problem. It could be a challenge at work, a challenge with your partner, a friend, maybe with your kids. How do you interpret and solve problems? Pause now, grab a notebook, or get to typing. But just think about this for a moment. Okay, I'm hoping everyone paused and took a moment to kind of reflect on your thinking on this question. But one of the major points here is that everyone interprets problems differently, and they come up with solutions that often result from previous experience or opinion or worldview. Most of us are not even aware of how our experiences and biases influence our thinking about what a problem is and how to solve it. Frankly, most people don't even know how to answer this question because most people simply haven't given it any thought. So I'm wondering if any of these factors at all relate to you. So when you have a problem, no matter how big or small, a disagreement, a big problem at work, a challenge with a kid, whatever it is, do you tend to view a problem as no big deal? We can solve anything. Or on the opposite side of that, do you tend to have catastrophic thinking? Oh, this is the worst. How am I going to handle this? This is the end of the world. Everything's going to go wrong. Do you tend to view problems in general like it's your fault that you did something wrong or that it's always the fault of someone else? Do you have a foundational belief that communication solves all problems? That no problems can go unsolved with a little bit of collaboration? On the opposite side, do you have a belief that no one knows how to communicate? Or that communication solves everything? Right? So, all of those are common thoughts that cross others' minds when they run into a problem, no matter how big or small the problem. The things that I just mentioned, that line of thinking, the various lines of thinking, those might not resonate with you. But again, it's helpful to reflect on how you view, how you name problems, and how you interpret problems and solve them. What guides that thinking? As we move forward, we're going to be looking at a problem solving approach, specifically how theory can be used to ground our interpretation and proposition of solutions for how to solve problems. We're going to talk about a scholarly practitioner skill builder. Specifically, we're going to talk about something called the funnel approach. The funnel approach you will learn is something that you can use to guide your thinking about problems, like you'll have a chance to do in this week's activities, but it'll also help you to name and frame problems for your problem of practice in your dissertation in practice. We're going to use a funnel approach by using theory or a framework, but in this case, a theory to ground your ability to name, frame, and solve problems. Doesn't matter how big the problem is. It could be big, it could be messy, it could be little, it could be neat. It doesn't matter. It's always helpful to have some sort of way to funnel and frame problems. And in this case, the top of the funnel is the problem, the very top. A lot of times we've got big, messy problems, like I said, or neat little problems. We just use our past experience or opinion to kind of frame that problem to come up with solutions. As a leader, it's very important that you have tools in your toolkit and principles that guide the way you positively, pragmatically, and proactively approach problems. One way you can do this again is by grounding your thinking in theory and using a specific theory or theories to guide the way that you think about that problem. You're going to have practice doing that in your assignment and your discussion, but I'm going to give you an example. So look again at the funnel so you'll see what I'm talking about here. Let's say I've got a problem, a hypothetical problem. I am in a leadership role, and for a little bit of context of my scenario here, as a part of that role, it's my duty to create community and collaborate with others. But lately, I've been noticing that there's a lack of communication between colleagues, which makes it really difficult to form strong partnerships outside of the organization because of communication breakdowns. At this point, I don't really have a framework for thinking about that problem. So I'm letting my past experience and opinion cloud my thinking. So some things that I'm thinking in my head are because of this communication breakdown with my colleague, I'm not doing enough. And that colleague isn't doing what he needs, or he just doesn't care about the organization. Other things I might think are, well, we just don't have the resources that we need to support partnerships. Our organization just isn't ready. I might also think things like, that person doesn't mean well. I'm not good enough. Okay. So all those thoughts I'm having about this problem, none of them are productive. And they can all lead to pointing fingers and a colored sense of what's really objectively happening by fact, right? So I'm going to take that problem, I'm going to shake it up, and I'm going to put it through the funnel. And in that funnel, in this scenario, I'm going to use transformational leadership theory to help me interpret this problem and figure out some solutions. So, transformational leadership theory. Well, I know from the course readings and other research I've done that transformational leaders inspire others. They foster leadership skills in others, they provide support where needed, and they allow autonomy from their colleagues. From a transformational leadership standpoint, in my funnel, it seems to me that I really need to have some trust in what the other person is doing, and I need to allow them autonomy. I could also provide them with feedback when needed because that's what transformational leaders do. Transformational leaders collaborate to set collective plans to move forward, and they act as a support. So all of a sudden, I'm looking at this in a more grounded and positive, pragmatic light because I'm using transformational leadership to interpret what's going on. I'm also going to think about some solutions I could have here as a transformational leader moving forward. So, again, I know that transformational leaders inspire. So I am going to set mutual goals with my colleague and with partners. And I'm going to hopefully inspire by focusing in on what's going well and connecting with my colleague to also connect to his goals. Maybe we can set some goals together where we can find a mutual win win. Maybe I can lead by example like a transformational leader would do and communicate more frequently. So these are all ways that I've used theory as a funnel to ground my thinking in a way that's much more productive than it would have been by finger pointing or not using a framework whatsoever. Theory guided my thinking. I have a positive and collaborative path forward to problem solve, to give it a try. And I've also brainstormed all those solutions that we kind of went through. So this was really helpful to have a funnel to ground my thinking. This funnel approach, this is a skill you're going to build over the course of time. We are simply trying it out for the first time in this week's activities. Now we have an opportunity to practice. And so I want you to pause for learning again here, please. I want you to think about a leadership focused problem. This is a leadership focused program. Maybe it's a difficult colleague, a lack of strategy, communication challenges across the organization. Maybe there's some incongruence between the vision, the mission of the organization and what's really going on, or a lack of structure. So as you dig in, do the readings, look at over the course content for week 2, and think about what you know about situational and transformational leadership theory, and ask yourself, which tenets of these theories can guide you in making more informed, deliberate, and grounded decisions? So again, pause here for learning. Think of a problem, put it through the funnel, apply your knowledge of these 2 leadership theories, and come up with some solutions that might be more proactive, pragmatic, and positive. You have one more opportunity to practice here. In this week's discussion, you'll be able to practice again naming, framing, and solving a problem using transformational leadership theory and situational leadership theory to ground your thinking. Let's pull it all back together. So, how can theory help me in real life situations? Well, theory can be used to help you name a problem, to interpret it, to frame the problem, to guide your thinking and to ground your thinking in a pragmatic and objective way, and then to come up with solutions grounded in that theory for more positive outcomes. All right. So again, we're going to be using the funnel approach throughout your whole program. Here's your first shot to practice. Please move on to this week's assignment and discussion. And I want you to use your knowledge of these two leadership theories this week, situational and transformational, to name, frame, and propose solutions to complex problems that you might be experiencing.